Hi. Publishing on Amazon is one of the best things to happen to you as an author. Number one, you publish your book without spending a dime, and you earn without having to stress yourself. Amazon does the work for you. Your only job is to publish. Put down your details and Amazon takes it up. Do you want to learn how this is done? You want to learn how this is done? It's an easy process. It's in an almost free way. I will not tell you free way because of course I'll charge you a little. I'll charge you for spending my time and effort. But then you get much more than you're going to spend. Just press those numbers on top, send me a DM, and we start immediately. Your plug is here. See you. Hi, you're welcome to my YouTube channel on learning about chemistry. Today we're going to be talking about particulate nature of matter, which is mainly atoms, molecules, and ions. But before then, have you subscribed? If you haven't, just do so. Press that red button in front of you and the bell beside it, so that anytime I post new video, you will get it without having to go and search. And for my returning subscribers, on my heart, I am so grateful. So let's get started.
Over the horizon, over the horizon.
Welcome back. Pardon me, I have a little cold, so now and then I will be sneezing. Yeah, so just pardon me. So like I said, matter is made up of, and like I said, the topic today is on particulate nature of matter. The particulate nature of matter. That's matter in its nature as particles. Yes, and it mainly has to do with the main products. The main particles are atoms, molecules, and ions. You know that these are the main particles that make up matter: atoms, molecules, and ions. Now let's start with atoms. Many of us have heard of atoms. It's a very not common word. You know, you hear of atomic bomb, we have different atoms. You know, yeah. So, but the history of what, before we get to the definition of atom, I will talk a little bit on the history of atom. The very first people that made use of this word atom are the ancient Greeks. The ancient Greeks. And they used it to describe indivisible. You know, that's indivisible, something that is too small to be divided. That's after you have divided and divided and divided, that little particle that is many that you cannot divide again. You know, they will call it atom, meaning that it's what, indivisible. However, the actual existence of this atom did not start until the 19th century. When it was discovered by an English chemist called John Dalton. He put forward a theory describing the nature of this atom. And this atom is now considered to be the basic unit of simple substances. The basic unit of simple substance, because it itself is a very simple substance. Hence the definition of an atom, which describes that atom is the smallest particle of an element that can take part in a chemical reaction. The smallest, this is one many of us are familiar with. The smallest particle of an element that can take part in a chemical reaction. You can also describe it as the smallest part of an element that can exist and still retain the chemical properties of that element. The smallest part of an element that can exist and still retain the chemical properties of that element. Yes, When you have broken that element, broken it like this, let's say this is an element, you keep on breaking it, breaking it, breaking it, breaking it, breaking it, breaking it until it's so tiny. It's so tiny that you cannot break it again. That tiny thing is called the atom, and it still retains the chemical properties of this element. You know, that's what they mean by that. So that moves us to molecules. Now, most atoms do not exist alone. They cannot exist alone. They must exist with each other. They are not independent. Most of them, only very few of them, and most are not independent. They must coexist with each other, and this, by this, their coexistence with each other forms molecules. You know, the molecules may be made up of atoms of the same element, or different elements. Monatomic, we have monatomic, we have diatomic, we have triatomic. Monatomic atoms is when it's only one, when the element is made up of only one atom, like helium, that can exist independently. It's made up of only one atom. We have diatomic elements that are made up of two atoms. We have compounds that are made up of two atoms. We have oxygen, we have hydrogen, we have chlorine. You know, these are elements, but when they exist as more than one, they have become what? Atomic substances. That they are now diatomic. You know, diatomic molecules, like oxygen, chlorine, hydrogen. They are molecules, please, not compounds. They are molecules because they are now existing as more than one atom. They have two atoms that are made up of them, like it's there on the screen. We have hydrogen, H2, we have chlorine, CO2, we have oxygen, O2. This means that these molecules are made up of two atoms. Okay, then we have polyatomic molecules. These ones are made up of more than two atoms. We have the sulfur, and then we have the phosphorus. They are made up of more than two atoms. Good. Now, however, most compounds exist as molecules. You know, the number of atoms in the molecule of a compound may be small or large. For example, hydrogen chloride. Hydrogen chloride is made up of two different atoms, hydrogen and chlorine. Sorry, two different elements, hydrogen and chlorine, and they are all monoatomic, meaning that one atom of hydrogen and one atom of chlorine make up hydrogen chloride. So in essence, hydrogen chloride is made up of two atoms. But we also have starch molecules. Starch molecule is made up of thousands of atoms, thousands and thousands of atoms. You know, so molecule can contain monatomic, diatomic, triatomic, polyatomic. You know, yeah. So hence the definition: a molecule is the smallest particle of a substance that can take part, that can normally exist and still retain the chemical properties of that substance. It is the smallest. Note the difference between molecule and atom, because many people normally confuse themselves. Atom, the second division of atom is the atom is the smallest part of an element that exists, that can still retain the chemical properties of that element. While a molecule is the smallest particle of a substance, not an element, a substance. It can be an element, it can be a compound, you know, but atom is restricted to an element. And molecule is not restricted to element. It can be element, it can be substance. The smallest particle of a substance that exists and still retain the chemical properties of that substance. Then we now come to ions. Some substances are not built of molecules or atoms. However, they contain charges. It can be positive charge, it can be negative charge. These substances are called ions. I-O-N. Ions. You can see it on the screen. Ions, not I-R-O-N. The iron we use in the house, no. Or the iron rod, no. Ions. Ions. There are two types of ions. We have the positively charged ions called the cations, and the negatively charged ions called the anions. Okay, an ionic substance has the same number of positive and negative ions. That is why it is called electrically neutral, because it has the same number of positive and the negative ions. Hence it is electrically neutral. That's an ionic substance. It's electrically neutral. Why? Because it has the same number of positive and negative ions. So how do you define ion? An ion is any atom or group of atoms which possess an electric charge. That's how you define an ion. Any atom or group of atoms which possess electric charge is called what? An ion. So with this, we've come to the end of this particular lesson on particulate nature of matter, dealing with atoms, molecules, and ions. If you have any questions, put it in the comment box and I will definitely answer. Thank you so much for watching. Remember to subscribe if you have not subscribed. Don't say, no, I don't need this. No knowledge is a waste. You might need it one day, or your children or your relations, anyone might need it. Subscribe, press the notification bell so that anytime I post new video, you will get it. Till then, it's a bye.